Hey guys, it's DMO73 bringing you another deck profile for another deck that you guys have seen me play a match with before. This is my red, white, blue Bahamut burn, so I'll just kind of jump right into it. The ruler is Faultgold the Dragoon. He makes it so that you can tap to search for a dragon, or you can J-activate him by banishing a fire resonator. And then his J-ruler side is Bahamut the Dragon King. He has flying, he's a 1k, and then you can banish a fire resonator to give him imperishable, so he can go back to being Faultgold. But then his other thing is, when he pops onto the field, you take the attack of whatever thing you banished for his J-activate and deal that as damage, burn damage, to a resonator that's on board. So a little bit of extra burn damage coming from that. So we'll go ahead and jump straight in right away with the stone deck. This is red, white, blue, so of course we're going to be running 4 stones of Heat Ray, the light red, and then we're going to run 4 stones of Hearth's Core as the blue red. It covers all of our colors, make sure we have 8 red targets, pretty solid. And then our 1-ohms is 1 Milest, the Ghostly Flamestone, for that extra bit of poke damage if you need it, and a basic red Firestone, because we want to make sure we're hitting red every single turn with this deck at minimum. To go ahead and jump right in, any deck that runs blue pretty much needs some draw engine, so we run the 4 Cheshire Cats. For always, you know, it's a chump block, it's a draw 2, it lets you set up plays kind of later that we'll go ahead and talk about when we get to them. Then we have only 2 Hunter and Black Forest. It's not an aggro deck by any means. If it was, I'd definitely be running 4. This is mainly a deck that's meant to kind of have answers to your opponent until it gets to turn 6, with occasional burns here and then it kind of just goes off big and sweeps your opponent under the rug. So only 2 of those. And then my big heavy hitter is the 4 Seven Dwarfs. I use this a lot for Faultgold. It's also really nice because if I have Realm of the Dragon King out, I can put out a 2-drop and make sure I get a monster on board, because it'll still survive the damage from Realm of the Dragon King, provided I only have 1 out at a time. So, and it's a 700 2-drop that just has to attack every single turn if it can. So it's really not that much of a trade-off, especially when in early game your opponent's monsters are going to be really tiny and they're not going to be able to take it, so it's free damage. I also I run 3 Grimm the Avengers. It's great spot removal if you need to against a dark, plus he can pump himself up 200 if you have Realm of the Dragon King up, so he can survive a hit from Realm of the Dragon King, meaning that you can get a monster on board and commit monsters to board even without having to worry about a Realm of the Dragon King being in play. When your opponent maybe can't necessarily commit cards to board, you can also commit smaller bodies to board without having to worry about it, so that extra 200 comes in handy. And then we have the 3 Humpty Dumpties, and these are one of the 2 cards that I use to try to pull out your big bodies early, is this and my 3 Joan of Arc's The Awakening Purities. We'll kind of talk about this. Humpty combos with Cheshire Cat, so you know, you play your Humpty Dumpty, have it on board for a turn, and you play your Cheshire Cat and set up whatever you want to pull off with Humpty on top of the deck. Then you banish Humpty and grab whatever you want. And there's pretty much only 2 targets for that, and we'll talk about that in a second. But that's how Humpty gets used a lot. And then Joan of Arc, The Awakening Purity, is a kind of a big commitment to get her Awakening in. It's all 4 light mana, so you have to hit all 4. But you can get a free Gilles de Rais out on board if you manage to pull it off. The other thing is, she also helps protect your other bodies from your Realms of the Dragon King, because she makes it so the first damage that would be dealt to a human or fantasy every single turn gets negated. So you can like play her, she'll take, and then prevent the first damage from the Realm of the Dragon King, and then each subsequent human you play can get past your Realms of the Dragon King, can be prevented those damage. Plus it makes it so that your blockers survive for a lot longer. And so yeah, it's a ways to be able to play Realm of the Dragon King without being concerned about being able to play your monsters. And then of course the big bodies. We don't have a lot of dragons right now, but we have the 4 Gilles de Rais. They're searchable after turn 6. I mean, they're searchable anytime, but once you hit to turn 6, you can just tap Faultgold, immediately search Gilles de Rais, and then immediately play Gilles de Rais, which can turn into a 2k flying swiftness that can come back, and that's pretty broke. And then just one Yamata, because pulling Yamata out turn 3 or turn 4 is pretty funny, and you can just poke for game with it, especially with some of the spell stuff that you have. You can literally just play Yamata, play this other spell, and just tell your opponent extend handshake, because there's really nothing your opponent can do. So that's it for the monster lineup. The spell lineup, we run 2 Rapid Decay for spot removal. This is a really good card, especially against Little Red, because all their monsters are tiny bodies, so even if their monster is like an 18/18, oh, it still has cost of 1, kill it. So Rapid Decay is a really good card for during your turn. Same with Duel of Truth. If you have like a 2K Gilles de Rais out, or you have your Dragoon, Faultgold or Bahamut out, you can Duel of Truth and also do some storm removal of a ruler, so it's a really good 1-drop spell removal. And then of course, for your extra burn damage and your extra little tiny pokes, 4 times thunder. It's pretty standard in any kind of burn build. The extra kind of pokes that I use a lot, I've used this a lot against J-Rulers, I've used it a lot against, for going for game with Orochi, is Poison Apple. So like, put Poison Apple on Orochi, you know it's gonna die at the end of the turn, swing in for 8, for literally 9,600 damage. So your opponent has to hopefully be able to block. They have to block at least 8 times, or at least 5 times for it to not be game just off of Orochi. And very few decks can do that without being at a massive disadvantage afterwards. So it just makes some really great plays, and it just makes your tiny bodies into something huge to get that extra little bit of poke damage in. And then the dragon kind of stuff. You have Realm of the Dragon King. It's your little like floodgate essentially, because it when it hits the board, from then on out, everything that's not a dragon that hits the board is going to take 500 damage. Or if Bahamut's on board, everything that's not a dragon is going to take 800 damage. Plus, with the new edition rules, you can play multiple copies at once. So if I have 3 copies at once and I have Dragoon out, you have to hope that their thing has greater than 2400 defense, or it's going to auto die. So that's pretty huge and like pretty unstoppable. So that's going to be really awesome. And then lastly, in terms of the main deck, we have 3 Dragon's King's Breaths. You automatically get the pump up to 800 damage because you have Faultgold as your ruler, or Bahamut as your J-ruler. So it's a 3-drop for 800, and it can be to player or Resonator. It can't be to rulers, but that's okay. You're mainly going to use this for like, if you really have to commit to kill something, or if your opponent's just a little bit too high for a thunder, just bam, hit them with a nice instant 800 damage and win the game. So yeah, if you want to see a match involving this, there'll be a link down in the description. It'll be this versus True Little Red, if you haven't already checked that out. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about this deck. Let me think about what kind of differences you would do, what card choices you would switch, and why, as well as maybe some experiences you've had playing a burn deck with Bahamut like this. Anyway, as always, guys, thanks a lot for watching, and this is DMO73 signing off.